Yeah, so let me introduce myself first. My name is Rohit Radhakrishnan. I manage the UiPath community for APAC. I'm based out of Bangalore. This series was quite an interesting journey for a lot of us, because I kept I had this conversation with quite a few of community members like yourself, that we have been doing a lot of enablements, engagements around agents and agentic AI. People have been doing POCs. The solution is there, but a lot of them have been struggling to figure out where does it really fit into our enterprise plan, and how do we identify the agentic opportunities as a business analyst. How is my role going to really change compared to what we were doing as an RPA BA? So to address those, the attempt was to kind of bring in some of the experts who come from this background, come from a BA background, but also come from a development background, to see and kind of visualize how agents are going to really change the way we operate. And through that, we have curated some of the sessions. You can go through the event page and you will find a lot of those over there. Just some ground house rules. Let's keep this session interactive. Feel free to post as many questions as you want on the chat. We have a lot of experts here who will try and make sure that your questions are getting answered on time. We will also have a dedicated Q&A section towards the end. So if there are any questions which are unanswered, you can just unmute yourself and ask, and we will make sure that it gets covered over there. As you might have heard, the sessions are all recorded and they will all be uploaded on the UiPath Community's YouTube channel. And you will also get an email in, say, 48 hours from the session getting over, with a link to the recording and the presentation. So you can go and check out the recording and the presentation over there and stay updated. Please do make sure that, while you are learning, you're also sharing what you're learning. So go back to your companies and share your learnings, your insights, and how you feel that, agentic automation can go through the discovery phase in your own companies. So that's all from my side, and I hand it over to today's speakers, Pranav, Sushmita, Shraddha, and Akhil. Guys, over to you.
Hi guys, I am Pranav Kashyap. So I am currently working as a team lead at Wonderboards. I'm also UiPath Bangalore Community Chapter Lead. So happy to collaborate. And if you want to organize any kind of events, something like this, which is currently going, happy to collaborate with you all. So now moving back to the another speaker.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Akhil here, and I'm senior software engineer at Cubotica, and I live in Detroit, Michigan. So feel free to connect with and scan my barcode for the LinkedIn. And I'm also Ohio chapter lead. So if anyone here wanted to host any session in Ohio chapter, definitely reach out to me, and then we can work together. Yeah, you can go next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shraddha Saraf, and I'm working at Wonderboards as a senior business analyst. I hold professional certifications for business analyst, RPA associate, Scrum product owner, and also recently I got certified on agentic automation associate. I will enjoy this session. I look forward for an insightful, engaging, and wonderful session with you all. You can scan my barcode and get connected with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Shushmita De. Currently, I'm working as a senior consultant at Wonderboards. I have had the opportunity to work on global projects with multiple RPA tools. So in today's session, I look forward to share my insights with you. Thank you.
Okay. So the whole agenda, what we have gathered today will be, Akhil will be talking about the BPMN, what BPMN looks like in the Maestro. Then Shraddha will be talking about the documentation approach. And this is the most awaiting session, I would say, because everyone was asking about one question: where is ADD? Can you please give us? So this is the session where everyone will get it all inside. This too, Shraddha and Sushmita will take you each and every details what it needs to make that that ADD. Then agent design document templates, practical illustrations where they have implemented in Wonderboards and many other places, and also data modeling I will be taking care, and finally the business take handoffs will be done. So now moving to the next slide.
Okay, so I'll just quickly start with understanding the BPMN just to set a context. So, what exactly the BPMN is? So, the full form of the BPMN is Business Process Model Notation. So, it's mainly like used to like show visual standards for representing like business processes and the workflows. So, think it of like a flowchart language. So, it's like a worldwide used kind of a model that every business person can understand. So this is the major like main definition of the business process model notation, but it is like one of the worldwide adopted standard to model business processes and the workflow. So if you can see on the right side, it shows like how exactly like any process works, how it is divided into different parts like pools, lanes, and workflows and all that. So we will see that in the next slide, but I wanted to give a quick context about it, what exactly BPMN is. So you can go to the next slide. So these are the basic and the important components of the BPMN model. So when we start with any kind of a BPMN diagram, we have to understand what exactly each and every component means. So if you can see the events, which is the first one is the singular circle, which is the start event, where it will denotes that your like event is starting. Then intermediate, where it's like something that happens in the middle, like receiving a message or anything like that. So if you wanted to like note that into your diagram, then you can mark that like a double circle notation. Then the third thing is the end event, where you are marking it as a completion of the process. So it's like a dark circle notation. So this first one is the event. Second one, if you can see, these are like tasks where you have manual task, user task, and the service task. So manual tasks are like done without any kind of a system support. Like you example, if I have to give, it's like a signing a paper. So that's like a manual task. Then the second one is user task, where it requires a human action with the system help, like entering data into the form and all those different examples. Then the service task is the one which is like a fully automated by a system or a bot, where you are going to sending an email automatically, or you are like receiving an email with attachment automatically. So whatever it is, it's like a service task which is like a fully automated. So if you can see, level of automations like grows from manual task, user task to service task. So events and tasks. Then the third thing is gateways. So gateways are nothing but like a represent like decision points in your process when your process played. So first one, if you see, it's exclusive, where you have a cross mark in the diamond shape, which means that it has only one path to be chosen. So when you have like a when within your process you have to choose either yes or either no, like either or, like it would be only one path that has to be chosen. So at that time you are going to use exclusive gateways. Then second one is parallel gateways, when you have like a multiple paths happen at the same time. So it might be possible that multiple paths are happening at the same time. So you are going to choose this like addition notation within this diamond shape. And the third thing is inclusive, when you have one or more paths can happen depending on the condition. So it totally depends on that condition when whether that one path or more paths has to be chosen. Then the fourth one is the event based. So path is dependent on that external event that you are going to trigger. Then the fourth one is pools and the lanes. So what exactly this means? So it's mainly used to show like who is responsible for each task. So pools represent a different organizations or like a major participant included in your process. And lanes, like they represent roles or a department within the same organization. So this is the way of denoting the pools and the lanes. And then you can include your events, your gateways, then your task within these pools and the lanes. So it's pretty much similar to your workflows that you generally build as a business analyst. When you build any kind of a workflow, it's similar to that. So it's just different kind of a notation and kind of a diagram things that you have to follow when you are building a BPMN. Okay, let's go to the next one. So I'll not take a lot of time and just quickly go ahead with the simple example. So if you can see one of the use case, that is invoice matching. So if you can see the first step, it says like invoice arrives via email and uploaded into the processing system. So you are getting the invoices through email. Then second step, you are matching those invoices against the purchase orders that you like those are already present in your database or anywhere. And if they match, then you are going to go ahead with the normal flow. If it is not matching, then you are going to go with the like a manual resolution and other things. And third step is discrepancy resolution. So where like any agent steps into that and verifies and making sure that everything is uh, correct or not. If there are any discrepancy things, then it will like suggest a solution for that, and it will just update into the system. So as soon as this resolution is done, invoice will go for the final review, and it will be like if the like invoice is rejected, it will notify the vendor. If it is approved, it will go for the process continuation. And if it is approved after everything, it will go for SAP to feed it into the SAP. So it's like a simple invoice process where we are like getting invoices, matching it, discrepancy resolving, then approval and posting into SAP. So if you go to the next slide, Sushmita. Same thing we denoted and we converted that into the business process model notation diagram. So if you can see, the first step is receiving the invoice. If you can see, that is a singular circle where you are getting it's like a start of your process. That's why it's like the single circle without any kind of a dark like a bold circle or a dark circle over there. So if you can, and after that, as soon as your process start, it will go for the invoice to PO matching, where you are matching it against the purchase order. Those are already available. And if you can see that it's like a rectangle box, which means that it's a task that you're gonna do. That task could be automation, that task could be anything. After that, like you have a exclusive diamond shape decision point where you are going to choose either it's yes or no, if there is an invoice matching or not matching. So if it is like if it needs any kind of a resolution, if you see the description over there, if it needs resolution or not. If it doesn't need any resolution, that means invoices are good, we don't have to worry, then it will go for invoice approval. If it needs resolution, it will go for the resolve discrepancy task, where your agents will comes into the picture or any other kind of automation comes into the picture. So if agents will fix those discrepancies, and it will just resolve that, and it will again go for another like exclusive thing where you are either going to reject or you are going to like resolve that. So if your invoice is getting rejected, you are going to notify the vendor, where you are going to integrate with the integration service, or you can create an automation out of it, and you can see that its invoice is rejected after that, because that's the end of your task. That's why we have a dark this kind of a bold circle over here. And if we have to go back here, invoice is approved, and it will go for the action center. If the human approved that particular task, then it will go for the final approval. As soon as your invoice is approved, it will like post it into SAP, and after that, your invoice has been processed. So ultimate goal from this slide is to make you understand, when you have similar kind of a problem statement, to convert that into BPMN diagram, what would be your thinking? What are the diagram notations that you should be using to make that process standard throughout the process, so that every person within your organization or outside your organization will understand this particular flow. So this is like a quick understanding about BPMN model. So I'll hand it over to Shraddha to continue with the documentation approach for the variations.
Thank you, Akhil. Hello, everyone. Now, Sushmita, could you go to the next one? So let's take a moment to understand the key documentation challenges we might face in agentic context. First is the black box problem. Traditional documents show steps, but not how the agents will actually decide. Therefore, it misses probabilistic behavior, confidence threshold, and self-correction logics that drive the real outcomes. Coming to the next one is the missing memory layer. PDDs document workflows, not how agents learn or forget. Therefore, it fails to capture knowledge retention rules, leading to expensive relearning or outdated actions. And finally, the silent failure trap. What does it mean? Static documents assume perfect execution. However, no documentation or fallback paths, self-healing protocols, or when to escalate is known until something really breaks. Looking at this, you can come to know that these are the challenges we understand why traditional methods are insufficient for capturing the nuances of agentic systems. And this creates gap between the design and implementation. Now moving from static to dynamic. As you see, the slide shows the shift from traditional to agentic documentation across 4 key aspects. Focus moves from fixed steps to dynamic decision logic. Collaboration becomes ongoing, not just a handoff between the teams. Adaptability means we document how agents will respond and not just what they do. Coming to the last one is the lifecycle integration. It turns documentation into a living blueprint that evolves with the automation. This shift is just more than a technical upgrade. It's a mindset change. It helps us bridge the gap between the business needs and the technical execution. And finally, it makes sure automation stays relevant, responsive, and aligned at all times. With this, let me hand it over to Sushmita to talk more on the power of ADD. Over to you, Sushmita.
Thank you, Shraddha. So, agent definition document. It's a living blueprint guiding your automation agents to success. It aligns everyone involved from developers to stakeholders on the agent's purpose and behavior. This ensures a shared understanding of what the agent does and how it should operate. It begins by defining the agent's purpose, goal, and the problem it solves. It also explains how the agent interacts with other systems, exchanging data through APIs and using inputs or outputs. Why does this matter to your team? The ADD acts as a single source of truth, wiping out confusion and aligning expectations. The clarity reduces mistakes, rework, and promotes consistency throughout the agent's lifecycle. The outcome is a smooth development journey, fewer issues, and easier maintenance. Think of ADD like a GPS for your agent. It maps every turn, helps team coordinate smoothly, and ensures the agent reaches its goal efficiently. Now we will dive into a real-world problem statement from an ITSM department. We will walk through the requirement gathering phase to see how this process naturally shapes a solid agent definition document. The problem statement is, IT service management teams are swamped with repetitive, time-consuming requests that strains resources and impact service quality. The key challenges include repetitive requests, application access provisioning, password reset, and multi-factor authentication resets. The consequences are delayed in resolution, increased error rates, and high support cost. The business requires an intelligent agent that can interpret requests dynamically, handle missing or unclear details with adaptive logic, resulting in error reduction through guardrails and cost efficiency and service quality gains. Now I will hand it over to Shraddha to show you the magic of a checklist.
Okay, so checklist may sound very simple to you, but as business analysts, we know they are powerful tools for turning chaos into clarity. So as you know, without a checklist, what happens? The project may be built on incomplete requirements, which quickly lead to unpredictable process behavior. When agents are missing, developers are left guessing the business intent. This usually means assumptions get made, resulting in costly rework, missed scenarios, and finally frustrated stakeholders. But with a checklist of smart questions, everything can change. A good checklist created by a business analyst ensures asking the right questions at the right time. We have put together a sample checklist. Sushmita will just display it on the screen. Okay, so this checklist is organized by category and with related questions. With respect to this checklist, please note that this is just a sample and you might have to tweak it as per your requirement, your process or agent behavior. Also, one point I would like to add here, that there are some questions mentioned here that are not directly asked to the business users. I mean, you cannot just go and ask these questions. Some of them may be like that in the list. Answers are derived depending on your discussions with the SMEs during the deep dives. Okay, now let me quickly walk you through the key categories in the checklist. First is the process overview. Here we ask questions related to the process name, owner, operating schedule, transaction volume, and the exception rate. As you might have seen, that this is similar to the questions that you keep asking during your RPA requirement gathering sessions. Next, process in scope. We try to understand the process in scope and which tasks are agent versus human managed. The third one, data inputs, outputs. In this category, we try to identify the data sources, the formats of the input data. We ask questions like, where is the input coming from? Is it from email or scanned documents? Okay, if it's scanned documents, we try to understand if OCR will be required. We figure out if there may be an ambiguity in understanding the user request. Finally, we see that the output format, what is expected from the agent, whether it is a JSON or whether it is an email response. Coming to applications and systems, here we ask questions related to the type of applications involved in the process. We try to understand if there are any database integrations or API required in the process. From this information, we can see what tools will be required for the agent. We also check what type of data is available in various environments like test, dev, or the production. Now coming to the agent behavior and trigger, clarify how agent starts, what triggers it, how it adapts, and handles the exception. For decision logic and error handling, we try to understand the patterns in the input data, outline the rules and the escalation path. Talking about the process performance and SLA impact, capture the SLA requirements, failure impact, and performance matrix. In user experience and interaction design, understand the interaction with agents, whether the agent is a conversational or an autonomous agent. Understand the security and compliance for flagging any data-related concerns. This checklist can also be referred when you're doing the handoff of materials to ensure they are clear and developer ready. Last but not the least, people and change management. Identify the resources who will manage the agent and support the process. Identify if there are any training needs that are required before the rollout. Also, a special note here that if there are multiple agents in the system, you may have to create a checklist copy for each agent to capture its behavior. And similar for the process automation also, you can do that. Okay, now we have created a flow diagram, which is for the use case that Sushmita has explained some time back. Okay, this illustrates how agentic automation moves beyond simple rules. As you can see, the flowchart is divided into 3 swim lanes, as Akhil has also explained in the BPMN section. First is related to the tasks which are handled by the RPA automation. Second is related to the agent task. Here, the agent handles the decision and reasoning part. Third are the tasks which are handled by the ITSM support team for out-of-scope applications and application failures. So coming to the start of the process, when an email request arrives, the agent jumps in and first verifies if it fits into a valid support category. If not, no action is taken. For valid requests like application access or password reset, it checks if the application mentioned are in scope. Next, the agent confirms if all the required fields are present. If details are missing, it proactively contacts the center to gather the information, avoiding details. This describes how our agent reasons and acts. As you can see, when it is communicating with the user, it is indicated by the BPMN symbol there. For multi-factor authentication resets, the agent validates if the MFA type and clarifies if by email if it is required. Once all the validations are passed, the agent passes the data to RPA for creation of ticket in ServiceNow. Once ticket is successfully created, the automation will end here. For any out-of-scope application or ticket creation failure, the request is smoothly forwarded to the ITSM team for manual handling. In short, this diagram shows how agentic automation handles complex IT support with flexibility and reliability. Now let's kick off our ADD walkthrough. I will hand it over to Sushmita for walking us through the sample document. Over to you.
Thank you, Shraddha. Let's start the walkthrough of the agent definition document, which is our blueprint for building the agentic automation named ITSM Email Triage Agent. The process key contact section lists the key people involved, such as business analyst, process owner, process SMEs, and developers who own different part of this automation journey. Under process description, for purpose of the document, this agent definition document establishes the blueprint for the ITSM email triage agent, an autonomous system that converts unstructured Outlook service requests into structured RP-ready payload for in-scope IT categories. Now coming to success criteria, in here, we encapsulate the business objectives expected post-implementation of our automation. So you can include such parameters under this section. Now on prerequisites, this covers what's needed to start. The access to Outlook and UiPath APIs, the scope list maintained, the data that needs to be pre-configured, and the adherence to compliance and data security policies. These need to be pre-checked before we start our automation. Now coming to process metrics, we track the key performance indicators like weekly email volume, schedule, processing times, error rates, and scalability prospect. Just like done for a PDD, we have already gathered the information for this metric from the checklist. Now coming to the agent overview part. The agent type defines what type of agent we are using. Is it autonomous or conversational? Our agent is autonomous, working independently to triage email and prepare tickets without needing direct conversation. Agent story. The agent story follows a simple, structured format to clearly define what the agent does and why. Here we describe who the agent behaves as. This line shows where the agent works. These next lines share the agent's goal and expected actions, and also specifies the agent, collaborator, and tools. Now, under desired outcome section, this line highlights the business value or impact of the agent work. Finally, we state how this success is recognized using the success metrics. Now coming next, these key apps are the application expected to be used for our automation. So you have to list down these parameters information within this box. Next is data type involved. In here, you will mention the input and the output data type that you are using in your automation. For our use case, the input data type is an unstructured email, and the output is a structured JSON formatted specifically for RPA consumption. Next is expected trigger. So whatever triggers your automation, you encapsulate the detail under this section. So the agent activates every time a new email arrives in the IT support inbox, enabling the real-time processing. So that will act as a trigger for us. Now, agent flow diagram. As Shraddha showed earlier, the workflow visually maps all steps from email receipt to payload creation. Functional business requirement. This section defines each of the process from monitoring inboxes, classifying requests, and finally steps involved for ticket creation in ServiceNow application. Just like what we used to do in our PDD, we will encapsulate all the details step by step in this particular section. Business exception handling. Here we outline rules for handling special cases like out-of-scope request, missing info, or ticket failing to create, ensuring smooth fallback to manual handling when needed. Reporting. This regular report tracks the key number like accuracy, volume, and customer satisfaction to keep monitoring agents' health and effectiveness. So if your automation requires such reporting for insights and to monitor the user satisfaction survey, you can include such details over here. Now we are coming to agent solution. This part is a living collaboration between business analyst, prompt engineer, solution architect, and developers. Agent solution diagram. So this is a detailed process diagram created by solution architect, serving as a visual contact between business and technical team. So we don't have it now. That is why we haven't included, but you need to add it over here. Now coming to agent functionality. We describe the agent's role in triaging, data extraction, and the tools it uses like APIs and LLMs, the output data format, and the point where escalation to manual intervention happens. So as per your automation technical feasibility, you have to add, technical functionality, you have to add the parameters and details in this particular section. Now let's talk about the system prompt. This is basically the agent's instruction manual captured right inside the ADD. So first we define the role here. Then next is the objective. Then we have the rules. This part is like a agent rulebook explaining step by step what needs to do. Classify the intent into only 3 categories, then validate the requested apps or MFA type of form that form the approved list like apps for M365, Jira, Citrix, and for authenticators like Microsoft or Okta. Extract the key information from the email. Based on these, the agent decides on one of the 3 actions. Generate payload if all info is complete and valid. Request info if some required details are missing, specifying exactly what's needed. And lastly, escalate for any request out of scope or invalid. Finally, the guardrails ensures the agent never makes assumption. It won't guess categories, it won't guess app or missing data. This keeps the automation safe and reliable. The expected response from the agent is strictly a JSON object with fields defining the action, extracted data, any missing info, or reason for escalation. In short, the system prompt carefully outlines who the agent is, what it must do, and how to do it, and how to behave safely. Coming to the user prompt, the user prompts illustrate real example of emails that the agent processes, showing exactly how the automation interprets requests and take actions. Scenario 1 shows a complete request, requesting Citrix access where the agent fully understands the intent and generate the right ticket payload. Scenario 2 highlights when information is missing, like needing a MFA reset, but not specifying the authenticated type. Here, the agent sends a follow-up request, on what's missing. Scenario 3, demonstrate the agent's boundaries. If a request falls outside of the supported application, like someone asking for SAP access, the agent immediately knows to escalate and forward the request for manual handling. Now coming to prompt guardrails. Guardrails restrict the agent from operating outside the defined request categories and ensure it never invents data, protecting automation integrity. So these details we are already including within the system prompt, but you can explicitly define it under this section as well for a quick view. Now context grounding information. This is a background knowledge like approved application list and policies that the agent uses to make informed decision aligned with the business rule. However, in our use case, we are not using any context or information that the agent need to follow. So we are keeping this section empty. Next is tool. The agent orchestrates multiple tools like Outlook API to read and send emails, RPA tool to create tickets. So this information needs to be capsulated under this section. Coming to RPA tool and agent tool, for this section, if your automation uses any existing RPA or agent tool, please include that information here. Tools guardrail. If you need to add any check or validation in the tools you are using for automation, please include that information under tools guardrail. Now coming to escalations. Escalation handles requests that the agent can't process, routing them for manual review. Since the automation currently has no human in the loop, this section remains blank. Evaluation metrics. Here, it refers to specific quantitative measurement used to assess the performance, efficiency, and quality of automations. So you can add such parameters under the evaluation metrics. Now, coming in scope, here we specify what is in scope and out of scope for the automation, just like what we used to do in our PDD, brief pointers of both scopes, like both in and out scope. Finally, change request. Any changes in requirements or implementation are tracked here to maintain version control and continuous improvement. So with that, we are at the end of the ADD. This entire ADD is a comprehensive guide that can be split into requirements and solution part, or you can keep it for like as a one for a quick shared understanding by business and technical term. Finally, remember, this is a living document, evolving with changing business needs and continuous improvements. It keeps everyone aligned. Now I will hand it over to Pranav.
Hi everyone. So what is data modeling? So data modeling defines how our data is stored, organized, and accessed. Its structure, relationships, and rules. For example, for adaptive process, our focus is on designing any kind of models that can deal with unpredictable changes, any new activities that has come, inputs, or business scenarios. So so now let's take an example of these two scenarios. For example, healthcare and diagnostic. So as I mentioned, our data modeling should be flexible enough, or the data structure should be flexible that it can be it can take decisions based on any kind of unpredictable environment. In practical terms, if I would say, so this involves models and techniques that allow data and therefore evolve over time as requirements and real world context shifts. In this example of healthcare, what we can see that there is patient record. So as different kinds of symptoms arises, so we can't have a fixed structure how we were doing it earlier. And so this is where patient records will keep on evolving, and this is where data modeling comes into picture. Similarly, fraud detection. Adaptive modeling, why we are using is because of constantly it will learn from new transaction patterns, instantly updating to spot previously unknown. So this is where this is very important in designing the structure. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So now let's see the three techniques of using this data modeling for adaptive process. So the first process is the entity relationship plus metadata extension. So you have already seen in the previous any kind of variable that you are declaring. For example, you are declaring a invoice, which is a type of string. Similarly, here you have to do a extension of what you were doing already. For example, as you can see on the right side, that I have created an example of how the same thing, assuming the same invoice, purchase order, suppliers are there, which we are already aware of it. So we are doing here with some addition to metadata so that the if the bot so that the agents, basically the agents can understand not from just entity but from the other data as well. For example, if I see this example of entity where we have an attribute of invoice ID, vendor amount, anything, I have given another templates, for example confidence here, for example 0.92, then source, and then decision rules, for example, to add more information to this existing relationship as a metadata, so that you can extract not just from entity as an invoice and attribute as an invoice ID, but also if decision rules are greater than 5 for this metadata. So this can be extracted and can become a very adaptive. If you move to the next slide, Sushmita. Yeah. So the another two techniques are that is called the graph data models and the event driven data models. So what is graph data model? So as you might have seen if you were working on the line graph part, where you have start, nodes, edges. Similarly, if you have worked on Neo4j, so you have seen that if you are creating a graphical RAG where you connect with multiple data, so there is a concept called multi-hop relationship. So there you want to extract a deeper meaning. So it's not like there is a vendor and what is the value of that vendor. No, I'm not talking about that particular relationship. I'm talking about a example where, for example, a vendor is there, then it's past deliveries, then payment performance, approval path. So you can see here, you're not just focusing on one particular thing, but as a whole, if I denote the same thing from a node starts edges perspective, it's very, we have to traverse from start end to the end to get this particular information. And this is where, this is the second type of technique to get the data, and this is where it becomes more adaptive. And the third one is called as the event driven data model. So what is event driven? So as the name suggests, any event can trigger this particular thing. For example, if you have logged in and you have gone to the customer care and customer care IT support, and here you are talking about that there is some, my internet drops every evening. So this is one of the query that you have got. So for example, how, if I have to think from two perspective, a graph query. So for example, it will think like an internet issues, then frequent disconnection. It might be a time-based problem, something. This is where graph query will come into picture. Then what it will do, it will give you some of the responses like check route of firmware, schedule line test, something, or escalate to something. Whereas if you do it from an edge or an event perspective, what it will do, it will ask you to check the diagnostic test. If diagnostic test fails, automatically what will do, it will escalate it to the L2 team. So in that way, automatically what will happen, the team will get to know the agents. Using the agents, it becomes more easier for us. Not it's a hard coded that we have done it. No, after doing this, no, automatically it will route it to the escalation team because of this event based. So this is where graph event becomes very helpful in creating this data models. Okay, moving to the next slide, please. Yep, moving. Yeah, back to you, Susmita. Shraddha.
Thank you, Pranav. So one of the challenges in automation projects is ensuring smooth handovers from business analyst to the tech team. So how do we get it right? Here are a few key practices. First, clarity is king. Clear goals and well-defined requirements prevent misunderstanding and save valuable time downstream. Consistency matters. Use shared templates and hold regular sync up to keep both business and tech team aligned throughout the process. Show, don't just tell. Instead of relying on text-heavy documents, use visuals, flowcharts, or live demos to make requirement tangible and easier to grasp. Bring it to life. Test early with real data or run small pilot scenarios. This helps validate that both sides have the same understanding. And lastly, close the gaps. Create space for questions, feedback, and clarification. Encourage open dialogue to catch assumptions or missing pieces early. When BA and tech team embraces this principle, handovers become smoother and outcome gets better. Thanks for listening. Now I would like to open the floor for any questions you may have.
We are now happy to answer any questions. We know there are many chats. People were asking something, so we might missed it because of our turn speaking. So feel free to unmute yourself, and if you have any questions, please shoot it out.
Hi, Pranav.
Yes,
This is
Namrata,
Namrata.
please.
Yeah. I had a question regarding the data section. And what I really wanted to understand is how do you understand what percentage of the data is missing, or is it the correct data? Because in a lot of cases, we might be extracting data out of documents, right? Typically in use cases which involve invoices and stuff, how do we know we have extracted it correctly? How do you establish those, data management, data quality scores? And typically, who are the owners?
Okay. So yes, I would say the last part, who is the owner? So a prompt engineer, basically who can verify when we extract the data from a RAG system. For example, I'm just talking that when you put something, if you are getting any kind of outcome, whether it matches the expectation or not. So there are many, I would say, way to check it out. So there are two ways I would segregate this as first from the RAG perspective and second from the LLM perspective. So as you know, hallucination, adaptability, and then what is the precision scores, and then the those kind of terminologies comes here into picture, and you have to map it out. For example, if everything is good, precision, accuracy, if everything is good, then what I would suggest, it shows that your data is good. You don't need to do anything. In case if there are any issues here in these perspectives, look back into your chunks, look back into your splits, look back into your embeddings, whether everything has been done properly or not, whether the latency is there. So are you expecting the same thing or not? In case if there are mismatches between what you are expecting and what you are getting it, I would suggest go back to your chunkings again, go back to that part. If everything is there, then finally if nothing is working, even after doing these things, which we have already seen from a POC perspective, that sometimes chunkings works, everything you have done your best, then at last you have to go with the fine tuning model, where you might be hearing of PERT, LoRa, QLoRa, things that you have to try it, why it is not giving that kind of information. I hope.
But Pranav, fine tuning is not in our hands, right?
Yeah, definitely. So this is as I mentioned, if you are a BA or someone, you can't do it. Only in an expert in that field, probably the person who has done a lot in Gen AI field, they will be able to do it.
But that would be with the providers of the cloud account, right? Wherever your LLM is hosted. That was what I was trying to ask. Wherever your LLM is hosted, that
Yeah.
is where your fine tuning is going to happen. So we as, let's say, the agentic AI team will have no control over that.
Of course, no. Of course, no. You are absolutely correct. And this is where we have to again now. That is the only thing, Namrata, if I should, that is the real problem that we have. No one wants to do the fine tuning part because it's little challenging, and also it's very costly. It's not about
Yes.
challenging part. You can't just fine tune the 1 billion only for example, that what you have chosen. But yes, prompt engineering is again one of the things that you might have to look, and this is what I would say right now. Happy to connect
What about
later.
the context? What about the context? Because whatever extractions we are putting in, right, the data is going to be sitting in one particular location through which we are going to make sense of it using an LLM. Yes, we have our context, our prompts to help us streamline it better. But even in that case, how do we know the data that has been extracted is also correct? What I'm saying is, when we traditionally look at ML projects or AI projects, we have a concept of a golden data set, right? Or a golden data record. So do we have to establish anything of that sort for the agents also?
See, from retrieval perspective, right now, if you ask me, then the similarity score, the cosine similarity, this is what we are mostly focusing on for the retrieval part. This is what we are doing it. I am not the right person talking about golden data set because I have not worked on that part. So maybe we can connect later and we can talk about this if anyone wants to add anything from also audience part, if you have worked on it. So
No worries, Pranav. I will probably get in touch with you offline.
yeah, sure. That will work,
Yeah.
Namrata. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you so much for clarifying that point on fine tuning and embeddings. Yeah. Thank you so
No
much
problem.
for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think any other questions?
Hey, Pranav, this is Aditya.
Yeah, Aditya, hi.
Yeah. I have a question that, for example, if we want to extract some data from the invoice or something, so that is that we use the document understanding tool in the UI path that we provide. So then,
Okay.
does it provide the confidence score also for each of the extraction field, or we need to write in the prompt engineering that you need to provide the confidence score, how the LLM is confident that the extraction thing is correct, the invoice number, the date, or anything that we extract.
See, right now, yes, right now, the thing that we are doing in from UiPath perspective is IDP, and nowadays we have updated it to IXP. Okay, so where we are getting the confidence score, but in the future, what you can expect is we are integrating this into directly an agent. So agent will directly do it, and it will give you the confidence score and the same thing what you were doing there, and that way you can filter it out. For example, if you are seeing that the confidence score is below some of your thresholds which you are expecting, then definitely you need to retrain it, and that the same process will come into picture, but which is right now not there, but definitely in the roadmap of UiPath Maestro.
Okay, and there's a thing that for the fine tuning. So does actually the as UiPath provide the GenAI activities to use the OpenAI's models for that the UiPath also provide for the fine tuning by itself, or we need to go on
No,
the provider?
no, we have to go to the provider and there we have to do it. And again, this is very
Yeah.
expensive, as what I was talking to Namrita. Same thing. And you need to be very expert, like something
Yes, I have
newbie.
done the fine tuning for my local model, for the Llama model. I have done the fine tuning in my
Mhm.
local in the server.
Mhm.
That I'm asking that it is possible on the UI path or not. That
No,
I'm wondering.
UI partner, you have to go to the again the
On the
LLM
provider side.
provider side. If you are using Hugging Face, Olama, then definitely,
Yes.
as you have already done it, so you can do it. But I don't think so. From a company perspective, they are doing something on their local. Everything is either stored somewhere on the cloud or any of the vendors.
And if I want to host some model on the UI path, if I want to use my personal model, some other
Yes,
model,
yes.
that can be happen on the UI path.
Yes,
Can we host?
right now, I have seen that they are giving an option of bring your own model. I
Yep, yep.
am not very sure whether that is go live or not, but it is there in the staging environment, which I can remember it. But I can double check on that. Sorry, if please reach out to me offline. Definitely give you a perfect answer on that.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
Okay. Uh, One question that we are keep on seeing that whether we'll get the ADD or not. Definitely, we will provide you the ADD, this template, and the recording is anyways there at the UiPath community channel. So feel free to go there, and if you have missed it, uh, you can have a look there. Okay. If we don't have any questions, we are first time we are wrapping 2 minutes early. Otherwise, we are always.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
have one more question. For example, if I have deployed one agentic workflow on the Maestro. So for the monitoring part, where I can see that agent is working fine or not, what the step is doing.
Ha. So there is a
Yeah,
monitoring and controlling option that is there in the Maestro. So whenever you run it, all the process, how it has done, what it has done from a compliance point of view, there is a separate tab. So if you just explore it, you will be able to get that
the
point.
below that comes in the tables that what is going
Also
by.
below is the on the go. But
Yeah, on the go.
if you want to see the recorded one as well, like how it did, like when it ran 4 times before, so it was also recorded there.
And also recorded the latency also, right? Correct? Because I
uh
didn't see the latency part in
Latency
the.
is there, that it has taken 5 second, 10 second for this particular steps. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
If everything is good, then I thank you, the speakers, Shraddha, Susmita, Akhil. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And feel free to join our next sessions. Next session is the last session, and last is the best, I would say, where you will understand the questions on the scaling part. If you have any questions, wonderful speakers lineup are there. Feel free to register yourself if you have not done it. It is on the next Tuesday, same time. So feel free to join. And thank you so much, everyone, again for joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.